Welcome, everyone. Today I have another workshop presenter. Her name is Nicole Hayward, and she's from an organization named You Gotta Believe. Nicole, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what's You Gotta Believe?
Well, I'm a permanency specialist and an adoptive parent here at You Gotta Believe. And You Gotta Believe's sole mission is to provide permanent loving homes for older children, especially teens who are currently in foster care.
Okay, how did you get involved in doing this for a living?
Well, actually, I started as an adoptive parent and really loved the mission of the organization so much. I started volunteering until a position became open, and I started working for them part-time, and just kind of evolved into now I kind of do a whole lot of different things for the organization.
What kind of things do you feel are very important for the community to know about what You Gotta Believe focuses on? I know there's a lot when your MAP training is very different than, say, a DSS MAP training. What is that big difference that you can share with the community?
Sure. The big difference between our families and our training versus the standard kind of county-based MAP training is we focus on permanency and unconditional commitment. Our kids are not moving on to an adoptive home. The homes that we place them with and match them with are their permanent homes. Whether they're legally adopted or morally adopted, they don't age out of the system. There is no returning, no matter what the family works it out, because they're unconditionally committed to that child.
Does You Gotta Believe help families through their training learn the truth about trauma? Trauma is a very big piece of what lies beneath is the theme this year. So does You Gotta Believe help focus pre-adoptive families learn a little bit about that?
Sure, they certainly do. All of our classes are based on trauma and teaching them as much as they can about the trauma that kids have gone through, and even looking at their own trauma as parents and how that's going to affect parenting a child that has come from a trauma background. So every class is really focused on that, and we involve parents in our MAP training. We also have alumni of the foster system involved in every one of our trainings. We have an advocate who has been through the system, that it gives real life examples as opposed to just kind of textbook examples in our training.
Well, this year you're going to be presenting with someone else, and you are going to do Understanding Parents' Trauma During Matching and Placement to Improve Permanency Outcomes. Say that 10 times fast. What kind of things will you be focusing on in your presentation?
We're going to be focusing on really taking a good look at what a parent's background is and kind of what they've experienced in their life when it comes to matching them with a child, because we want to match to be forever. So we want to look at things like if a parent has experienced any trauma in their background, or just kind of like how they grew up, because it really is going to affect how they're going to parent that child that is coming into their life, and what things may push their buttons that they wouldn't have otherwise thought of. So we really do a deep dive into that parent's history and kind of bring up different things, saying, hey, did you think about this? And how this child's behavior may affect or remind you of something that you have grown up with. And for some of those reasons, a child may not be the best match for you, because we know that their current behaviors may be triggering for you.
So one of the things I like to ask is I focus on books and mentors. Some people have mentors that they've looked up through this journey, whether or not be an adoptee, a potential adoptive family, or an adoptive family or kinship family. And then there's also books. Do you have either a mentor or even books that you recommend, or that you've liked yourself over the years of going through this as an adoptive family and worker for You Gotta Believe?
When I first started, I really just kind of studied those Dave Pelzer books, which were like a first person account of what it's like growing up in the system and the trauma that kids have endured. So it gave me that background of what my children were going to come into my home experiencing. So between those, and then Bruce Perry, and then Brian Post, they're all fantastic. And those are kind of my go-tos. As a worker,
it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting that we have Bruce Perry this year.
I know.
So.
I was very excited about that.
So the last question is, if you could say one statement of why families should come see your workshop, why is it so important? What would you say to the community out there?
I would say it's really important for families to come see our workshop, because it'll help them, besides helping workers, it'll help families that are looking for a match to say, okay, these are the other things I need to think about when making a match and looking for a particular child, because we want everybody's match to be forever, whether they're with You Gotta Believe or whether they're with another agency. We want the matches to work.